Sean's Ella's Spa is a Japanese-style private hot spring. The customer has a private suite. Behind the suite is a courtyard covering an area of 100 square meters, and the private hot spring is located in this courtyard. The water in the hot spring pool is drawn from the eyes of the underground hot spring and flows continuously into the hot spring pool 24 hours a day, keeping the temperature very suitable. Isaac knew that Charlie was here, and hurriedly arranged for the hotel people to upgrade their room to the best set of top-notch suites. There are 2 super large and luxurious bedrooms. Even the hot springs are much larger than other places. The scenery is much more beautiful. After entering the room, Claire and Elsa looked at the surroundings and immediately became happy. Elsa hurriedly urged Claire and said, "Claire, change your swimsuit quickly. Let's go to the hot spring to relieve our fatigue." Claire was also very happy, and immediately nodded and agreed. Charlie originally thought about having a chance to see the beauty of his wife changing her swimsuit, but he didn't expect that the two went to the same room. Seeing this scene, he naturally knew that 2 beautiful women could only appreciate each other, and his hopes were lost. So Charlie went to another room and changed into the shorts he brought over. Since Charlie changed shorts relatively quickly, when he came out, the 2 girls hadn't come out yet. So Charlie walked to the yard first and slowly entered the huge hot spring pool. Charlie couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief as the warm water gradually spread over his body. After a while, footsteps sounded, Claire and the 2 changed their clothes and walked into the yard. Charlie turned his head to look, and his eyes lit up. The swimsuit Claire wore was conservative. Nevertheless, it outlined her perfect figure, slender legs, and fair skin, all of which made Charlie's heart hot. And Elsa next to her was even bolder. Although Elaine stopped Claire from letting her wear a bikini, Elsa really wore a pink bikini. This bikini only covers the important parts and shows most of the other parts in the air, which makes the figure unparalleled. She is not inferior to Claire's body, and her appearance is equally beautiful because her dress is bolder and more irritating, but she overwhelms Claire. Seeing Charlie's somewhat surprised and stunning gaze, Elsa smiled charmingly, and then quietly threw a loving look at him, which looked bold and shy. Seeing this as gentle as water, and with a somewhat fiery look in his eyes, Charlie felt a little throbbing unconsciously. But he could only pretend that he didn't know, and quickly withdrew his gaze, fearing that he couldn't restrain himself and reappeared in the water, and secondly he was afraid that Claire would see the clues. The 2 women twisted their waists naturally and walked over like a pair of models. In Charlie's eyes, it was a wonderful underwear show. Afterwards, the 2 reached the side of the hot spring pool, stepped on their long white legs, and plunged into the water one after another. It was also the first time for Claire to wear a swimsuit in front of her husband, so she was a little bit shy. So she took Elsa, sitting 2 or 3 meters away from Charlie, whispering, and chatting about some topics between girlfriends. But Elsa's thoughts were clearly on Charlie. While chatting with Claire one by one, she secretly glanced at Charlie with her eyes from time to time. In order to prevent being seen by his wife, Charlie could only turn his back, and then closed his eyes and rested in the hot spring. The 2 women chatted for a while because the hot springs made their bodies too relaxed, so they both felt a little sleepy. Claire has been very tired recently. Not only is there a lot of things happening recently, but the company is newly opened, and she has been busy tossing, and she is already exhausted. At this time, she was surrounded by the warm spring water, and she felt unprecedented tiredness. After a while, she became sleepy. So, 10 minutes later, she was by the hot spring pool, leaning against the hot spring pool with a towel, and fell asleep slowly. And Charlie was closing his eyes to rest up his mind at this time, and suddenly he felt the water surging around him. When he opened his eyes, he saw Elsa's white and tender body, who had already swum to his side. Just as Charlie was about to speak, Elsa stretched out a finger and put it directly in front of his lips, and whispered, "She fell asleep, don't wake her up." Charlie glanced at Claire and made sure she was really asleep. Then he breathed a sigh of relief and whispered, "We shouldn't be so close, especially in the face of Claire. Claire is already asleep." Elsa smiled, and said emotionally, I just want to thank you for what happened just now. You saved me again." Facing Elsa's confession, Charlie said with a calm face, "It just happened to meet a few Asters scumbags. Just clean up, don't take it to heart." Elsa said seriously, "Then I would like to thank you very much." After all, Elsa sat down next to Charlie, and when she stretched out her hand, she hugged Charlie's arm in her arms. The two of them were very little. Charlie's arm instantly felt the smooth and tender skin touch. Charlie squeezed and said quickly, "Elsa, don't do this, you will be seen by Claire." Elsa smiled and said, "That means I can't see it at first, so I can do it?" "I didn't mean that," Charlie said helplessly. Elsa hugged a little tighter and said, "I want a hug." "It's best to let Claire see it, and then you two divorce so that you can be with me." Charlie asked with a righteous look, "How can you do this? You are Claire's good girlfriend." Elsa also said seriously, "I know that you and Claire were not married because of love, but because her grandfather insisted on doing his own way, so she was willing to marry you, and I also know that you two have no substance until now. There's no such thing as a husband and wife.